I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Village Board for May 26, 2020. Could you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Corey, would you please call the roll?
President DeSimone?
Here.
Trustee Carmona?
Here.
Trustee Franz?
Here.
Trustee Fry?
Here.
Trustee Lomax?
Here.
Trustee Panicola?
Here.
Trustee Perez?
Here.
7, we have a quorum.
We will move to public comments. Does anyone wish to address the board? If so, please approach the podium and state your name. Are there any online public comments?
There is none tonight.
This will conclude public comment. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 12, 2020 Village Board meeting?
You have a motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
You have a second?
Are there any modifications to the minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Say nay. Motion carries and the minutes are approved. The next item of business is to approve the warrant in the amount of $1,823,895.23. Is there a motion to approve the warrant?
So moved.
Is there a second?
You have a second?
Is there any discussion on the warrant? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
That's 6.
The motion carries and the warrant is approved. There are no items on the consent agenda. Under administration, ordinance of the Village of Bentonville, DuPage and Cook Counties, Illinois, approving and supporting a state of emergency to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and provide relief to the residents and business community. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
You have a motion.
Is there a second?
You have a second?
There being a motion and a second, any discussion of it?
Yeah, so this is a ratifying the mayor's executive emergency declaration that he made, and we intend to sign another emergency declaration following this meeting.
Any questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
The motion carries and the ordinance is passed. Under Community and Economic Development, one is an ordinance denying variation request for monument sign area and height, and approving a variation to allow an EMC sign at 1201 through 1221 West Irving Park Road. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
You have a motion.
Or a second?
You have a second?
There being a motion and a second, any discussion?
We have Director Viger is currently connecting to audio right now. Mr. Viger, welcome to the board meeting. Scott, can you hear us? Scott, can you hear us?
Scott?
Okay, it says connecting to audio. All right, we do have, this is a denial of a variance request, and the petitioner did submit public commentary. I'm going to ask the deputy village clerk to read that into the record.
This is from Mike Barker. He's from Sinorama, and he's a sign contractor. To the village board, we would like to request your consideration for approval of a variance in regards to monument sign and total square footage based on the following comments that we would like you to consider. The current rendering meets the overall height and dimensions of the monument sign in general, and is the reason we rendered it that way due to the fact that the current sign is also the same height. This will keep the sign more cost efficient since we will not have to reconstruct or shorten the current steel posts in place. Had this been a brand new sign going up for the first time in this location, of course, we would have designed one to exactly meet the requirement. But due to the existing footage and structure, we feel that is most efficient and suitable for the current situation. Keeping the sign at the dimensions, at these dimensions will have the sign looking the exact same size as it is now. This will keep fixed tenant panels in the same spot, same size with the same amount of visible intent. Having a freshly illuminated sign with an LED message center at the proposed sign height would greatly impact the presence of the property and will also highlight the physical improvements of the building that will soon be underway. We hope that you consider a request to approve the following signage and its proposed renderings. Thank you for your time in reviewing this process.
All right, Mr. Viger, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Great. Can you give your report on the denial?
At the Plaza 83, there were 3 variations requested. One for the height of the proposed sign. They proposed it at 12 feet. The code allows 8. Pardon me. The second being for the square footage of the sign. The code allows 50, and they are proposing 75 square feet. The third was the EMC itself. It's of course close to a couple other EMCs, one down at O'Hare Auto Body being the closest, and they need a variation to have one that close. The staff as well as the CDC had recommended denial of the first 2 variations, the height 12 feet versus 8, and the size 75 feet versus 50 square feet. But we're approving, if you will, of the EMC as in general. The CDC did vote unanimously at their public hearing to deny the first 2 and approve the third variation for the EMC with some standard conditions. So the ordinance that you have in your packet does state that denial of the first 2, approval of the third and final variation request.
So the vote will be to approve the denial of the request.
Yes, and then of course approval of the third one. Two denials, 1 approval.
For approval of the ordinance. Does it-
Yes, sir.
They have to go back, as long as it fits in the regular size that we want, they're okay with it. We're
Okay.
denying the structure of it.
The size, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That some of the size was for the tenant panels that are on the existing sign. And with the provision of the electronic message center sign, they of course can change out the names and everyone can have a name on that board. And so the tenant panel, necessity for the tenant panels is diminished.
Does the board have any questions? That concludes our report, Mayor.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona,
Yes.
trustee Franz,
Yes.
trustee Fly,
Yes.
trustee Lomax,
Yes.
trustee Panicola,
Yes.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
That's 6.
The motion carries and ordinance is passed. Number 2 is an ordinance approving a special use permit to allow indoor entertainment and a variation for off-street parking requirement at 450 South Dominic Court. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
You have a motion.
Do I have a second?
You have a second.
There being a motion and a second, is there a discussion?
This is for Ranger Studios. Scott, can you give your report, please?
Yes, sir. The special use permit for indoor entertainment, Ranger Studios started out as a recording studio, if you will, and they host music videos, basically. So live band and performances go there, and then, of course, they have an audience to be part of that video. So it was determined they needed a special use for entertainment. They also have a variation request for parking. Parking and a use like that is based on the occupancy level. So the code would require 8 parking spaces for the use. There's a lovely 13-car parking lot at the north end of this multi-tenanted building, but the other users in the building require 12 spaces. So on paper, they have 1 space for Ranger Studio when they need 8. Staff is supportive of both the special use and the variation, in as much as the other users are, of course, industrial in nature, and Ranger Studios primarily used during the evening hours and weekends where they don't have an overlap with the other tenants in the building. I should say the building is at the south end of the Dominic Court cul-de-sac in the East Business District. So we did recommend approval of the special use and the variation. The CDC did as well. There are a few conditions attached to that, mostly building scenarios dealing with the plumbing code and the accessibility code. And we've had those conversations with the building owner, the tenant, Ranger Studios, and their representatives. So we recommend approval.
That concludes our report, Mayor.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona,
Yes.
trustee Franz,
Yes.
trustee Fry,
Yes.
trustee Lomax,
Yes.
trustee Panicola,
Yes.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries and ordinance is passed. Number 3 is a resolution approving a letter of intent for the contemplation of the sale of 101 West Main Street and the village parking lot on the east side of North Center Street, north of 13 West Main Street, Bensville, Illinois. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
You have a motion.
Have a second.
You have a second.
We bring a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So this is for the property located at the corner of Main and Center. It's currently owned by the village of Bensonville. This has the potential to become one of the most exciting projects we get to work on in the near future. I'll let Scott summarize the terms of the letter of intent.
Thank you, Evan. The letter of intent, of course, is a means to an end. It establishes broad terms of agreement, if you will, that we, the village seller and the purchaser, LV Development LLC, and we'll get into that in a minute, agree on as we look forward to negotiating a purchase and sale agreement. The letter of intent here, I did mention, is with LV Development, which may not tell you much. LV Development is someone we know, Luigi Sardoni. He was over on East Green Street for many years as a local businessman, and his partner, Victor Hernandez, are the moving force behind that company. The concept they've proposed is in keeping with our redevelopment plans for the site. It's a mixed-use building. What the letter of intent talks about is approximately 80 units there, and a first floor of commercial use. They envision a restaurant there. If you look at the text in the letter of intent, it does talk about 80 units up to 220 almost. And that's they're contemplating looking at other properties. We do fold into this the 43-car underutilized parking lot on the east side of east side of Center Street in there. The letter of intent talks about 180 days, 6 months, for LV Development to do their due diligence, soil borings, and things of that nature, and then 90 additional days to entitle or to get the planned unit development approved through the village board. There is a $100,000 purchase price for the property. $25,000 of that is non-refundable. I should say they put that up when the letter of intent was executed. $25,000 of that is non-refundable at day 91. If they get to the end of the 180 days of their due diligence, the other $75,000 becomes non-refundable, whether they proceed with the project or not. Of course, we hope that they do. As the village manager says, this is obviously the most exciting thing in the downtown for quite a while. Certainly the biggest development that might occur in our downtown, most likely since Linden Tower, I suppose, many years ago. So we've had a lot of discussions with LV Development, led by, of course, the mayor and the village manager, and we recommend the approval of the resolution authorizing the execution of this letter of intent.
Any questions from the board? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona,
Yes.
trustee Franz,
Yes.
trustee Fry,
Yes.
trustee Lomax,
Yes.
trustee Panicola,
Yes.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
The motion carries and the resolution is approved. Moving on, the finance ordinance of the village of Bensonville, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois, establishing our rights and responsibilities related to locally imposed and administered taxes. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
You have a motion.
Have a second.
You have a second.
Being a motion and a second, is there any discussion? I believe.
Village Attorney Montana and his office created this. I'll let him summarize the agreement.
Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees, and ladies and gentlemen, this ordinance is a taxpayer bill of rights ordinance. It creates a local government taxpayer bill of rights that establishes procedures to ensure due process rights of a business owner that collects locally imposed taxes and a taxpayer that pays those taxes. It creates the administration and collection of a locally imposed tax, such as the hotel tax. It establishes procedures for payments, credits, refunds, and provides for certain notice, auditing procedures, and a hearing process in case there is a dispute, which would obviously benefit both the taxpayer and the village. It establishes a specific local tax administrator who is the finance director to carry out the requirements contained in the Taxpayer Bill of Rights ordinance.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights ordinance? Seeing none, that concludes our report.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona,
Yes.
trustee Franz,
Yes.
trustee Fry,
Yes.
trustee Lomax,
Yes.
trustee Cannacola,
Yes.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries and the ordinance is passed. Under Public Works, resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with Utility Dynamics Incorporated for the 2019 CDBG Annual Residential Streetlight Project in the amount not to exceed $244,045. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
You have a second.
Any motion and a second, any discussion?
I've invited Public Works Director Joe Karachi into the Zoom meeting to give his report.
Thank you very much. These next two items on the Public Works agenda are for the 2019 CDBG residential streetlight project. The reason why this project has been delayed until 2020 are threefold. First, HUD, which is the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, delayed funding for the CDBG projects until late in 2019. Two, due to a change in the low to moderate income area maps, the village had to perform an additional income survey of the area to prove that it still qualified for the CDBG funding. I'd like to thank all of the residents in that area for their participation and cooperation in that process. We asked for a lot of personal information that they were very hesitant to give us, but in the end, we did prove that they did qualify for this funding. And then our third reason is our first attempt at bidding this project only yielded one bidder, so it had to be rebid to satisfy the grant requirements. The project scope will include the installation of 37 decorative streetlights in the area bound by York Road to the west, Marion Street to the east, Jefferson Street to the south, and Washington Street to the north. As mentioned earlier, the project was initially bid on March 5th with only one bidder submitting. That was Utility Dynamics in the amount of $248,815. The village rebid the project back on May 7th and received two bids this time. Utility Dynamics did submit the lowest bid, about $4,000 cheaper, in the amount of $244,045. Our CDBG grant will actually fund 50% of this project total, which will include engineering up to $200,000. Utility Dynamics has performed this program for us the last 2 years, since 2017 and 2018, very successfully. So staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Joe. These streetlight projects are some of our highest rated projects by our village resident surveys, so it's important that we continue to do these projects. I appreciate your commitment to work through it. I know this grant was difficult to manage through CDBG. On an administrative side, the mayor is having technical difficulties with his computer. I can assure everyone he is here in the meeting and still running the meeting. With that, Mayor, this concludes our report.
Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona,
Yes.
trustee Franz,
Yes.
trustee Fry,
Here.
Yes or no?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
trustee Lomax,
Yes.
trustee Cannacola,
Yes.
trustee Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries and resolution is approved. Number 2 is a resolution authorizing the execution of an engineering services agreement with James J. Bennis and Associates Incorporated for the 2019 CDBG Annual Residential Streetlight Project in not to exceed amount of $17,083. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
You have a motion.
The second.
You have a second.
Getting a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Joe, do you have any follow-up on the, this is the engineering related to the same project?
Yep, engineering the same project. James J. Bennis has designed and done construction engineering on all of our streetlight projects since 2015. They're well qualified and familiar with the additional paperwork required for the grant. Submit a proposal that included not only part-time inspection, but all the CDBG documentation and reporting, the preparation of pay estimates, and the verification of layout from the contractor, and then also project closing. The negotiated fee of $17,083 is 7% of the construction cost, which is below our typical 8 to 10% for these types of projects. So staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Joe. Does anyone have any questions for Joe before I kick him out of the meeting? Thanks, Joe, for your report.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
Hold on. Sorry. Motion carries and the resolution is approved. We do not have a report under the recreation. On the presidential remarks, the village of Bensville is prepared to shift into phase 3 of the governor's Restore Illinois plan, which allows for businesses to reopen with restrictions and gatherings of people in groups of 10 or fewer. While we absolutely need to regain some sense of normalcy, it is important to remember that the coronavirus is still being transmitted throughout our state. Please remain cautious and avoid unnecessary risks by protecting yourself and those around you. That will conclude my presidential remarks. Village manager's report.
Thank you. The next brush and branch pickup by village crews will take place on Monday, June 1st. Please remember to have your brush and branches to the curb by 7 a.m. And then also, in a continued effort to provide relief to Bensonville residents, I would like to remind everyone that Village President DeSimone issued an executive order suspending the sale of vehicle stickers and dog licenses for the remainder of the year. We anticipate we will begin reselling vehicle stickers and dog licenses in the beginning of 2021. This was done to provide some financial relief to our residents when they need it most, as well as to protect the public health and the logistics of selling those tickets and licenses. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a village attorney's report?
I have no report, Mr. President.
Any unfinished business to come before the board tonight?
We have none.
Is there any new business to come before the board tonight?
We have none.
Need for executive session?
There is no need, Mr. President.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You have a motion.
Do I have a second?
You have a second?
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.